to the Abuja studios, day 17 in the month of June. Beautiful Wednesday, midweek, and it's currently 35 minutes past 7. Abuja, you have Chooks and Nice Fourth right here in the studio, and we are about to check the papers. Nice Fourth, how are you so far?
I'm fine. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay. All right, so starting off with the front page of the Daily Monitor, we have order to deregister ADC for other parties. Appeal Court suspends execution of judgment. Says Justice Lifu exhibited judicial rascality by going ahead to hear and make the order. Article hails Appeal Court's ruling, warns against judicial manipulation. Starts on the front page and continues on page 2. Porous borders, fueling terrorism, other crimes. NSA warns, says Nigeria's territorial integrity, national stability linked to effectiveness of its border security architecture. Starts on the front page, continues on page 2. Rejects narratives that seek to divide Nigeria. NSCIA urges Nigerians. That's on page 4. All right, still looking at the front page of the Daily Monitor, we have court revokes Showere's bail, orders his arrest. That's on page 4 as well. Moving on from that story, okay, and that's the front page of the Daily Monitor.
And on Nigerian pilots, we have insecurity. Katsina shuts POS, bans jerrycan fuel motorcycles. And you can find that story on page 6. ITUC Africa decries low wages, poor working conditions for domestic workers. That story is on page 9. Man seeks suspension of proposed plastic ban, warns of risk to manufacturing sector. That story, you can find it on page 19. FG commits to sustainable financing for rapid economic growth. That story is on page 9. We have Nigeria, nowhere is safe. Gunmen attack NIPSS, Kuru near Jos, kill 3 security personnel. Plateau State Police Command confirm NIPPS attack took place in early hours of Tuesday. Discloses that victims were on duty when the assailant struck. Assures that investigations are underway to identify and apprehend attackers. That story, you can find all of that on page 8. Appeal Court holds execution of judgment, the registering 5 political parties on page 5. Terror trials, federal government secures convictions of 150 terrorists in 2 days. That story is on page 6. Naira 25.6% undervalued despite reforms, says IMF. That story on page 5. And finally, court rejects Yahaya Bello's attempt to hold 110 billion naira for trial. That's it on Nigerian pilots.
All right, now moving on to the front page of the Daily Independent, we have decreased fuel imports, drive forex stability, strengthening Naira. Starts on the front page, continues on page 29 of the Daily Independent. FG secures conviction of 150 terror suspects in mass trial. Page 7. Makinde rejects negotiation with abductors, vows to rescue people's teachers. Page 7. We also have textile revival requires more than fabric imports curbs. That's from operators, starting on the front page and continuing on page 29. Tinubu lauds troops for killing bandit kingpin, Bats Tuji, rescuing general's widow. Page 7. Katsina governor to engage Islamic clerics, stakeholders to fight insecurity. Page 6. Shetima leads last-minute APC campaign boost for Oyebanji in Ekiti. Page 6. Above the nameplate of the Daily Independent, we have weak borders fueling terrorism, arms smuggling. That's from Ribadu. Starts on the front page, continues on page 2. And Appeal Court holds execution of judgment to deregister ADC for others. Starts on the front page and continues on page 6. That's the front page of the Daily Independent.
And on Daily Sun, we have Appeal Court halt the registration of ADC others. AA accord Hashim Adebayo fault order. NJC must investigate Justice Lifu's judgment. And we have federal government moves to tighten security at borders as gunmen attack NIPPS. NSA speaks on challenges of porous borders. Akpabio seeks stronger border security through technology, regional ties, and troops rescue 7 kidnapped farmers in Sokoto. You can find all of that on page 4. Senate to probe Oshomole's allegations against Akpabio. That is on page 6. Ex-Nedeko chieftain Ralph Obioha rejects Tinubu's national honor. Cites insecurity, Kano's incarceration. That's on page 28. And we have Oyo School abduction. Protest rocks Ibadan as VDM leads bring them back action. You can find that story on page 27. And finally, Obi's party NDC moves to forestall defections. That is on page 28. That's it on Daily Sun.
All right, so to the Standard Times. Appeal Court slams Justice Lifu, halts the registration of ADC, Accord, other political parties. Starts on the front page, continues on page 2. NCC begins review of telecom pricing in 8 years. Starts on the front page and continues on page 24. Court dismisses Yahaya Bello's application challenging FCT High Court jurisdiction. Page 3. CBN orders banks, fintechs to localize payment data, caps market dominance. Page 24. I remain firmly with APC despite my niece PDP nomination, son's defection. Ogun APC senatorial chairman. Page 2. As president, I will give peace to whoever wants it. War to who wants it. That's from Peter Obi on page 2. Why insurance penetration is low in Nigeria. That's from the NCRIB on page 2. Nigeria anticipates lower petrol prices as global oil markets reduces. Page 3. World Hydrography Day 2026. NHA boss says modern hydrography key to maritime safety, blue economy. Page 3. Above the nameplate of the Standard Times, we have Nigeria's foreign reserves near $51 billion, highest since January 2009. Starts on the front page, continues on page 24 as well. Ekiti police arrest man over false bandit attack video. Page 4. And Oyo government demolishes another building allegedly used for crime operations. Page 4. That's the front page of the Standard Times.
Okay, on gwg.ng, topping the headlines is DSS breakthrough. Court passes first death sentence on a female bandit collaborator. Interesting. You can find that on page 3. Atiku Adeleke bounce back as appeal court stops the registration of ADC orders. That story is on page 5. Tinubu halts dependable, hardworking Wike as he commissions Court of Appeal judges' quarters. That is on page 7. And finally, we have celebrities caught in storm as Baba Ijesha welcomes baby 8 months after prison release. That's it on gwg.ng.
All right, now to the leadership newspaper. ADC, Accord, 3 others get reprieve as appeal court holds execution. Page 7. Sultan warns of rising insecurity as FG tries 676 terror suspects. Page 7. 96-year-old woman attacked by granddaughter dies in Dara. Sad one there on page 10. FG flags off distribution of fertilizer to farmers nationwide. Page 16. On page 18, Katsina introduces measure to cut off fuel supply to bandits. And we also have Senate holds emergency plenary on June 23 over insecurity. Page 6. Passengers, users grown over 100% hike in airport parking toll charges. Starts on the front page, continues on page 10. And above the leadership newspaper, the World Cup prevails there with results from yesterday. And the top performer of yesterday is Kylian Mbappe, according to the leadership newspaper. That's it for the leadership newspaper.
Okay, on Nigeria Al Jazeera midweek is terrorism. DSS secures another death sentence as Katsina court convicts female arms carrier. Family arraigned for impersonating bandits. Father, children, grandchildren accused in Ogun. That's it on page 9. Banditry, Katsina shuts POS centers, bans petrol sales in jerrycans. That story is on page 8. 8 years after, NCC reviews mobile termination rates. That story is on page 15. NDC candidates sign indemnity forms to prevent defections after election. That story is on page 22. And we have Senate clears customs of 62.2 billion naira under remittance query. That story is on page 2. Appeal court halts judgments to registering ADC for others. That story is on page 16. And finally, we have Tinubu hails troops for eliminating bandit kingpin, late General Widow's rescue. That's it for Nigeria Al Jazeera Midweek.
All right, now to the Whistler, we have rice self-sufficiency drive falters as Nigeria imports 3.4 million tons. That's on page 9. It goes on to read, production gap widens to 3.5 million tons. Over 60% of rice mills idle. Porous borders, community resistance hampering anti-smuggling efforts. That's coming from the customs. Lagos Sales Church, 12 orders for noise, air pollution. Arrest 289 beggars in 2 weeks, pages 3 and 14. INEC backs ADC Accord, others in bid to halt deregistration. Obedience movement raises concerns over delisting of ADC Accord, others, page 7. Court revokes Showere's bail, others arrest, page 6. Gunmen attack NIPSS headquarters, kill security operatives, 12 soldiers face court-martial over alleged murder, criminal offenses. That story is on page 18. NCC seeks new pricing model for telecom services, page 14. Dangote cuts petrol price by 75 naira on Middle East truce, page 13. And we have rising stable coins may undermine monetary policy, IMF warns, page 10. And that's the front page of the Whistler.
Okay, I have here Observer's Times, and topping the headlines is DSS secures another death sentence as Katsina court convicts female carrier. That is on page 2. NCC begins review of mobile termination rates 8 years after, on page 3. Court of Appeal halts the registration of Accord, ADC, others. Slams trial judge for judicial indiscipline over flouted orders. Judiciary itself is now on trial, says Atiku. That is on page 1. Federal government secures conviction of 150 terror suspects in mass trial. That story is on page 6. Oshomole alleges forged signatures in Akpoti Uduahan suspension reports. That is on page 5. Court revokes Showere's bail over failure to appear at trial. That is on page 8. And finally, federal government distributes 11,720 bags of fertilizer to FCT farmers. That's all on Observer's Times.
All right, so that's it for the papers. Just looking at the Business NG this morning, we have petrol marketers. Nigerians say Dangote's 75 naira price cut falls short. Demand further reductions. That starts on the front page and continues on page 2. Cooking gas prices may fall to 900 naira per kg soon. Well, that's the story on the front page, starting on the front page and continuing on page 2. We also have CBN directs banks, fintechs to store payment data locally from January 2027, page 2. And Katsina governor bans fuel sales in jerry cans, shuts POS operations in 2 LGAs over security concerns. Starts on the front page and continues on page 2. And that's it for the papers this morning. We looked at the Daily Monitor, the Daily Independent, the Standard Times, the Leadership newspaper, the Daily Whistler, and of course, business stories from the Business NG.
And we also looked at news from the Nigerian pilots, Daily Sun, GWG.NG, Al Jazeera, Nigeria Midweek, and Observer's Times.
All right, so on the front pages this morning, major story on the front pages. We have the appeal court order suspending the execution of judgments against the likes of the ADC Accord, ZLP, and two other parties, so 5 in total. But it's a good one for the opposition, a good one for our democracy as well. And well, I guess that puts to bed that issue as well. INEC as well backing those parties, so I don't think anybody's going to be going to the courts. I don't expect
Anyone
anybody
to
going to the courts to seek
complain.
another, judgment, in a higher court. But it's good that happened. So let these, parties prepare themselves and get ready for their elections. Ekiti is this weekend.
Yeah.
Osun is in August, before the presidential, elections as well. So we need a situation where these parties don't feel they're being oppressed because probably they're not the ones in power or whatever, which has been flying around. But it's good that happened with the courts. So I think also our judges as well need to be careful with the kind of judgment they put out there going forward, especially knowing that this is a very sensitive period, when elections are around. It's very sensitive.
You can't just put out any judgments out there.
Do not get people inflamed. Do not irritate people with judgments and all of that.
Very true. And yes, thank you to Court of Appeal for protecting the political parties.
All right. In other news as well this morning, the one on petrol prices reducing, I think it was on the front page of Business Entry. Yes, petrol marketers, Nigerians say Dangote 75 naira price cut falls short. Demand further reductions. Yeah, hopefully people are still hoping that it will go down. In terms of petrol prices, there are comments that worldwide as well, petrol prices are going to fall. The deal that has been brokered between the US and Iran, the Strait of Hormuz and all of that. So hopefully we might have a reduction in prices.
Okay,
we might have a reduction in prices.
I saw this morning that the fuel price in Abuja is still sold at 1,175 naira. That's concerned. Even after the 75 naira cut that Dangote executed. So why is that happening when they've reduced it by 75%? Why is Abuja petrol station still selling for 1,175 naira?
Yes, and it's very important because petrol prices, controls most of the things, commodities, transportation, and all of that. Controls
everything
all
involved.
Of that. Once the prices keep going up, you definitely are going to experience, it in your pockets
yes.
to try to keep up with it.
Definitely experience.
And that cooking gas, I don't know how the federal government, how that's going to happen from 2.5 down to 900 naira per kg. I don't know how that's going to happen. And I can't even remember the last time Nigerians paid 900 naira per kg for cooking gas. I remember when it was like 300, naira years back. So you could fill your 12 kg with like 3,800, 3,500,
No.
Yeah, I remember. I think that was like 2017, 2018. And that was when I was in uni. So 2017, 2018. So if you buy an entire 12 kg for, 3,006, 3,500, 3,800. So hopefully this 900 naira, I don't know how that's going to happen though.
From 2,500 naira.
But good news for Nigerians. And if that eventually happens as well. We know the state of insecurity, in the country. The state of insecurity, what has been happening. And on the front pages as well, the Abuja mass trial that happened with FG securing 150 convictions of terrorists on first day here in the FCT. And it's a very good one. And thankfully, we're taking this fight to terrorists and hopefully we get to win it. This is what we'll be talking about. Prosecute these people, go after them. The president has made that statement again that yes, they're going to do more with a kingpin being killed, the rescue of late General Rabi's wife. But we still have a lot of individuals in the hands of kidnappers that need rescuing and saving. And it's also good that the Oyo State governor is saying there is no way they are going to, negotiate with the abductors. They're going to do their very best to rescue them without negotiating with them, without monies changing their hands. Because once they receive that money, they in turn use that money to terrorize
to get their what's it called, guns, food, motorcycles, motorbikes, and all of that. So hopefully, let's hope that the government execute the right judgment to these people when they are apprehended.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know a lot of people are still against the reintegration of these individuals, but it's good that we're seeing trials for 150 of them, and hopefully we'll get to see more going forward. We need more when it comes to dealing with such
We've seen
individuals.
death sentences too. So let's just hope that these judgments are executed. That's
all. The Senate is set to hold an emergency plenary on the 23rd of June over insecurity. And they went on the break as well. Recess. So they are going to be coming back. And well, we'll see whether the plenary will do more than just talking about this issue.
We'll do more or do something.
Yes, because they raise this thing during the plenary, but what is the action that follows?
That's it. We don't just want it to be all talk and no action. Let's see some actions. When you're going on sessions, say something, bring up solutions that you would actually work with. That's what we want, not just all sitting and talking. Because everyone talks. We sit here every morning, we talk about insecurity. What we want is for some action. That's what we want, action.
Yes, we need action. We need to win this this issue
war.
We need to win as well. Yeah. Well, passengers, users grown over 100% hike in airport parking toll charges. Well, I was a bit surprised, when I saw the prices people are paying for, parking their cars at the airport. I think it used to be the cheapest means to park your car for those who are traveling. If you know you're not going to be in the country, you're going to another state.
Leave your car there.
You leave your car there. It was going to be safe. You come back 3 days or 5 days, and all of that. I think it was this musician, I'm trying to remember his name, who put a receipt he got, paid the 90,000
for parking space.
Yeah, and I think he said it was 3 days or 4 days he parked his car.
If you ask me, that's extortion. You're gonna pay that sum of amount, and then you still pay for a flight that
is. So it's a very high one when it comes to the parking ticket. So I just hope they review the costs of that as well. Well, this morning you can pick up a copy of any of the dailies. You have an insight into all of the trending stories. Most of the stories resurface on the papers. Well, to a bit of sports as well. As we know, the World Cup is currently on, and we had matches yesterday and early hours of today. Starting off with the matches from yesterday, Iran and New Zealand played at a 2-2 draw. France 3, Senegal 1. I was a bit disappointed for Senegal. They had some good showing, bits and pieces in that match. Should have taken their chances as well against the French side that has Kylian Mbappe. If you don't take it, you get punished, and that was what happened yesterday. Ended at 3-1. At some point, I was thinking that game was going to end in a draw, goalless draw. But both sides stepped up and scored 4 goals for us. Norway breezed past Iraq 4-1. Erling Haaland scoring 2. Mbappe as well scored 2 yesterday. Early hours of today, when a lot of people were asleep, Lionel Messi was scoring a hat-trick against Algeria. That ended 3-0. Probably should have gotten a red card. That's talking about Lionel Messi when it was 1-0. But, it's Messi, so I guess the referee was scared of giving Lionel Messi a red card there. Austria as well breezed past Jordan by 3-1. Matches later on today. Portugal against DR Congo at 6. Cristiano Ronaldo will be in action in that one. England against Croatia at 9. That's a big one. We also have tomorrow morning, very early, Ghana against Panama at midnight. And then Uzbekistan against Colombia at 3 a.m. So a lot of matches to look forward to when it comes to the World Cup. We are getting to the business end. First round of matches almost done and dusted. And a lot of teams in the second round will be fighting for their lives to be in the World Cup to qualify to the next round. Well, that's it for sports this morning. Oh, before I go, also in tennis, Serena and Venus Williams are set to compete at Wimbledon doubles. So very good one to see the sisters back together. We hope they can be able to do something good on the grass court. All right, so any final words before we go?
You've said it all.
All right. So also to those of you out there, make sure that you try as much as possible to have a fantastic Wednesday. Keep listening to Ray Power 100.5 FM. Fact File will be coming through at 8:30 a.m. Political Platform will be live on YouTube at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and also live on this dial. To stay with us. The name is Chooks.
And I am Niceford. Good morning.
Providing 360 degrees of information and entertainment. 24/7.